Hello there. I'm not going to put you through that again, but if you're curious to what I'm referring to, I'll leave a link down below in the video description of my goodbye to the Zhiyun Crane V2. This is the Ronin S. This is my new toy, my new buddy that I'll be using quite a bit. I use a gimbal a lot, especially during weddings, and from the ceremony all the way until the reception, I'm pretty much on the gimbal the entire time. It's just very versatile. I can get some really cool shots with it. It allows my creative juices to get flowing just a little bit more, so it's really important to be able to use a gimbal. And that's the reason why I got the Ronin S. Let me backtrack a little bit though. I was using the V2. When I say V2, I mean the Zhiyun Crane V2. Instead of saying that whole long name, I'm just gonna say the V2. So with the V2, I had the Sony a6500 camera. I used the 16 to 35mm lens, which is this one, it's the f4 aperture one. And I also like to use the 55mm lens here that I have onto the Sony a7R III. So many letters to keep up with in numbers. So my problem is that this camera was too heavy for the V2, which is weird because it actually worked for the first, I would say, 2-3 weddings that I used it at when I got the R3. It seemed to work fine, but all of a sudden it just kind of started falling. And that was just nerve-wracking as it was. I'm in the middle of a shoot, or even like there was one time during the ceremony, I was going in place, nothing drastically movement kind of stuff. It was literally just holding it in place, moving to my position, and the camera would just drop. So, I was making sure that it was balanced properly, all that kind of stuff. It just wasn't working for me. So I was like, I'm gonna have to upgrade to a better gimbal. I don't mean better. What I mean by that is that something that could handle the weight of this camera with what lens I want to use. And I really like using this 55mm lens with the R3. I love the quality that it comes out of. Honestly, it was my best lens. I got a new camera lens and I'll have that for another video. But for this setup, this is what I like to use. And so I had to get it. I had to go for something bigger, and I was hoping I'd have it in shorter amount of time than what it was. It took a solid month because it's been back ordered for so long. That's how popular the thing is. Anyways, it's here and I have my first impressions for you guys. I am gonna say this, I haven't had like a project that I've worked on with this yet. I've got a wedding coming up on the 28th to where I'll use it more, and then some more weddings coming up the rest of the year. So I'll have more hands-on experience coming out really soon. So I'm gonna save my review probably until I get at least one solid wedding under my belt with this thing. And with that said too, at that wedding, I might not actually be using this Ronin, or I'm not gonna be using it. My second shooter will be using this versus myself. I'll be doing the photography side of stuff while they take care of some of the video. So anyways, that all said to say this, I have some cool things that I like about it so far and some little annoying things, not necessarily deal breakers or anything like that, but some stuff to consider if you are looking to get this camera for yourself. The first thing that I noticed was the grip. It's got a rubber grip versus that skinnier metal grip that I was used to with the V2. I like that a lot. It has a lot more sturdiness to it. I just feel like I got a better hold and grasp onto the gimbal. If you remember the Zhiyun Crane, the axis was pretty much like this. It was in the way of seeing the screen, but now with the Ronin S, the screen is above this axis. This is not in the way of the screen. So when I have it like this, I'm looking at the screen, I can see what I'm shooting. So I like that a lot. I love how they were able to think about this because it's so important to be able to see the screen. There were times to where I was just trying to look above that axis, trying to make sure that everything's in focus, that the colors are right, the exposure's right, all that kind of stuff of what you need to know when you're trying to shoot a video. So it's awesome that they have this in a different angle. It's perfect, I love it. Balancing this was really simple. It only took a few minutes to get set up. You pretty much just slide this back and forth until this doesn't fall in place, and then you got this axis that you work with. You just go through all the steps and it's just really simple. If you want me to do a separate video of how to balance this thing, let me know in the comments, because that's just something that you just kind of go through in a separate video. And just for information, I'm using the Google Pixel 2 XL, and so I'm gonna connect to it. I'm gonna power on the gimbal. I'll get to that in a second. Go to connect Ronin, pretty easy. Once you got that, you got the configuration, go to the motor parameters, and then you got this auto tune feature. And you just kind of let it sit and run. Some people have complained about it being noisy, but it's like whatever, it's auto tuning, it's all right. And that was it. Like, it probably took maybe a minute. That was it. So it's really cool. I like that auto tuning. The next point while I got this on is that it's pretty responsive, like when you're moving it around, and then you can also change how responsive and how it adapts to your movements. You can make it smoother, you can make it snappier, sport mode, all that kind of stuff. The setup was easy to get through. The V2 had a really nice portable setup. It wasn't nearly as big as this. This is almost as big as like a Phantom 4 case or a box. So you're gonna have to really prepare for that kind of stuff. I guess I'm gonna get into my a little bit of annoyances to get going. So yeah, the few annoying things was one that I'm just thinking about carrying around this gimbal, and it's gonna have to be in that box. I can't just throw it in my backpack anymore. The backpack that I had pretty much had all my audio cables and stuff like that, gear like that into that backpack. I ain't gonna be able to do that anymore. I'm gonna have to carry that thing separately. I really need to get just a big old bag to have everything in it anyways. We'll get to that sometime, right? So the other really annoying thing is that when you get the app first set up and you try to get everything connected, it's going to ask you for a password, and it doesn't tell you what the default password is at all. There's nowhere in the instructions does it have the password. So just for your own information, it is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. You're welcome. This is going to be one of those things to where I'm hoping that I'm in a noisy environment and not a quiet environment because of that ding. Nowhere in the app, nowhere in the settings has a toggle to turn that beep off. I hope that there's a software update at some point that allows me to do that, or some kind of hack. I had another gimbal, the AFI Gimbal, link down below if you're interested in checking that one out. I had to go through a computer programming setup in order to get that beep to be turned off. I just got to remember to leave this on once I turn it on, because I don't want to be in the middle of a quiet moment at a wedding, turn this on and the beep goes off. That would just be super, super embarrassing. There's not really any Sony support at the moment, but they say it's coming, so I can't wait till that happens. But until then, you can't really do the follow focus kind of functions, the record button and all that kind of stuff. There's one way to do it, and I'll get to that in just a second, but all those awesome features that this thing comes with, you can't really use it with a Sony camera yet. All right, so there's some tips I want to go over just before I close out this video, so that way you guys, if you are looking into this or if you just want more information, these are some tips that I would have liked to know when I got started. One was that password, so I'm going to tell you that password once again. It's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. All right, remember I mentioned that there is one thing that you can do with the Sony camera with the record button, but what you got to do is get the infrared cable, plug it into this side here, and then you're just going to kind of let the tip of this point towards this side of the camera. And so what that's going to do is it interacts with the infrared technology, and then you're able to hit record onto this button. Now with that said, it works like I would say 75% of the time. There's other times where you're mashing it and nothing's happening. So I wouldn't rely on that, but it is there just in case you might want to try to use it, so you don't have to reach up onto the camera itself and try to hit record. You can try to use the infrared with this record button on to the grip right here. Like I said, it works about 75% of the time. Plan to charge this thing as soon as you get it. There's no juice in it at all to even be able to play with your new toy, so just expect that you're not going to have any battery life once you open this thing up. You're going to have to charge it. Speaking of that, you can't charge this thing without it being disconnected, so you can't just take the battery off and charge it separately from the gimbal, which I don't understand that much at all. They need to be able to separate it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only way to charge this thing is the USB cable, which is USB-C, which is awesome. I love that companies are starting to put USB-C on stuff, but you got to do that onto the gimbal and not the grip. You would think that the grip would have the charging capabilities. I've got the Manfrotto 323 adapter system, and this is my quick release system that I have on all my stuff. And so I actually had to order another one. I forgot to do that. I'm going to have that attached to this plate here, so that way I can put this plate underneath the camera and I can just interchange my stuff. I can put this camera onto my tripod or monopod or anything like that. I'm able to just kind of move stuff around the way I want to. With that said though, if you're already on the Manfrotto 501 plates, you can use this plate on those systems, but from what I've seen everywhere else on the internet is that you can't take like a 501 plate that's made from Manfrotto and put it on this, but you're able to do it the other way around. So just kind of think ahead with those kind of plate mounting systems. I don't want to go through the process of having to unscrew that whole thing so that way I can use that camera onto another thing. Sometimes I like to just go handheld or just go on my monopod, and I'm able to do that with this quick release system. You're also going to want to hit the gym because this thing weighs quite a bit. I mean, you might get used to it, but I'm just thinking ahead at these weddings, going from the ceremony all the way until the end of the reception, holding that thing the whole time. Your boy's about to get buff. All right, guys, that's what I have for you about the Ronin S. I'm excited to get to using this on some actual projects, not just running around in the backyard, trying to get some test footage for this video or any other kind of YouTube videos. But yeah, like, it's gonna be fun to use. I can't wait to get it in very practical, real world usage. Once I get some good stuff under my belt, I'll make a review about it so that way you can make a nice informed decision if you want to get this. My experience is going to be mainly for wedding videos using this, but I'll end up using it for other kind of projects as well, like Foster Fest street festival that we have every month here in my local town. It's just a fun way to get some extra crispy shots. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate it. Subscribe so you can see more videos like this. Follow me on all the social networks. I hang out on Twitter and Instagram the most, so you can catch me there. Love to have a conversation with you. Let me know what you think about the Ronin S in the comments, and if you are planning to get it yourself. If you've got it already, any other tips that you can share in the comments are definitely appreciated. All right, guys, be humble and keep the hustle.